Conscious Collaboration brings together entrepreneurs, changemakers, and thought leaders. We aim to highlight the people that embody the idea of aligned mind, body, and business. Each week, we share, discuss, and learn from the various experiences and ideas of our guest experts. Through our discovery, we find a path to an aligned mind, body, and business.
What up, y'all? This is Emily.
And I'm Lisa, and we are the Conscious Collaboration.
Hi.
Hey, I love your radio voice. It's very good today.
Do you?
Yeah.
You?
Have you been practicing?
I mean, I talk a little bit. Does that count? Just yapping.
Yeah, isn't it funny when you listen to your voice on a recording, or do you ever listen to our podcast and hear our voices and you're like, oh my God, people listen to this?
Yeah, sometimes but it's one of those things you just kind of have to like push send and say fuck it, like and forget about it sometimes, because you never sound like what you think you sound like.
No,
I've seen some really funny reels to that effect, like what I think I sound like, and then they
my apologies to people that listen to us on 1.5 speed like I did, and yes.
I've never listened to us sped up. I have like a more normal tone voice.
Yeah, you do.
Yours probably sounds pretty high pitched.
A little bit like Minnie Mouse.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
Oh,
more like Mickey Mouse, cute. I'll be honest. But so anyways, I was reflecting back on our conversations because I don't know, I feel like last week everything I said went into a compartment and closed it up, and I forgot everything that happened. So
oh, that happens to me every day.
Yeah. So I was like, let me reflect back on our chain of thought and what's going on. And the common thread that stood out to me, obviously, I've been talking about it. It's been coming up in the cards and the symbols, talking about revolution time and time again. And there's just a whole lot of uncertainty. We talked about it when we put together our alignment assessment. By the way, shout out to people that are downloading that inside of our closed and private Facebook group, our alignment guide. So we've been aware of really people feeling unaligned, unattached, or stuck. They're feeling the pull in different directions, whether it's their career shifting. A lot of people are getting notices from work that they're no longer needed, that we know. There's a lot of pulls on personal beliefs and values in different ways, and a lot of society and government structures are changing. So there's just this collective continuance of feeling a little perhaps fearful, but expansion at the same time, because we feel like we're on the cusp of something and it's just unknown. So, I think maybe we continue talking about that, how we are as individuals surviving or thriving in this time in the very early stages of revolution. We have a long ways to go before we get through this period cycle of 20 years. I think we're in year one or two of this. So what are your observations lately?
Yeah. Well, just to elaborate on that a little bit. So we've been including Chupi, aka the Chupacabra, in our pre-recording chats lately, which so she is our AI collaborator. That Lisa has been lovingly nurturing, right?
She knows everything about us.
This whole time. So she's been giving us, yes, she is a she, the mythical beast, the Chupacabra. But she's been giving us, some topic ideas, and I think this format is working really well for us so far in how we like to kind of work in not too structured of a manner and just kind of rip up some things. But the the phrase that stuck out to me the most about what Chupi gave us this last time was that personal revolution. So we've been talking about, and you've pulled in the I Ching the last few weeks, this energy of revolution. I'm definitely feeling it. We've definitely expanded upon that, but I really kind of got the light bulb that hit when when she talked about this idea of personal revolution. So I thought that might be a good place for us to explore in our conversation today. And here's where I went with it initially is because of all this uncertainty and all this uprooting and change and um all the different things that are going on, you can definitely it's easy to encounter a lot of negativity. And I don't mean this in the sense of like toxic positivity, like negativity doesn't exist, it's all puppies and sunshine. That's not it. But I've found myself even just in conversations like with good friends of mine, been friends with for decades. I kind of um either change the subject or just kind of fall back a little bit because uh, the energy of the negativity is just so like that's all there is. And Steve, our beloved Steve's Love Tarot, who I'm always quoting, he points out very rightfully, in my opinion, that negativity feeds itself. Like
Yeah.
that snowball is easy. It just rolls down the hill and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. The positivity snowball, you have to make it. You have to nurture the positivity. So if you're feeling like you're in this negative cycle and you want that to change, well, as I see it, the answer lies in that personal revolution. It's like we got to stop. Okay, you can acknowledge, that there's something you perceive as negative or unfair or unjust or that you just don't like. You can acknowledge that. You can acknowledge the way that makes you feel. But then from there, should you continue to keep focusing on that, like that is going to become your universe. And that's to me just a horribly unpeaceful way to live, you know? And so the antidote to that, as I see it, well, two things. One, if you ask the question, okay, how can I be of service in this situation? That's one. Two is, okay, what can I do to better myself in this situation? And as uncomfortable as this is, because it is, growth is uncomfortable, right? No growth happens in the comfort zone, all that good stuff. As uncomfortable as that is, it is the antidote to the lack of inner peace that comes with just focusing on the negative.
Yeah, I mean, it is just a fine dance between not we talk about attachment. So there's a fine dance between unattaching from this negativity that's snowballing down the hill, but also realizing that sometimes it's good to be a little bit of grain of irritation that can interject. I mean, I'm not encouraging everybody to be irritating and always say the negative counterpart to everything. But also, we don't want to veer to the extreme and be so unattached that we're appearing to be um, complicit or compliant.
But that's not it at all. Yeah,
Right.
no, that's
Yeah.
that's not it at all. It's where is your attention?
Hmm.
Because if your attention is always on the negative, then that's what, I mean, that's what you become. It is.
Yeah, that's your
That's what you
experience.
become.
Yeah.
So, we want to, we want to be responsive and not reactionary, right? And as I see it, the most effective response, if you want to be a person who creates positivity and positive outcomes in the world, then you won't have time or energy or bandwidth
Yeah.
to do so if all you're doing is focusing on the negativity and what is so horrible. And to be perfectly frank, I guess, if that's what you're doing, you're complaining. You're a
Mhm.
complainer. And
Right.
that's not to say shut up and be good and be quiet and go there. This is not what I'm saying at all.
Right.
But the action and the response, um, as I see it, in order to create something positive, if that
Mhm.
type of person you would like to be, either lies in service to others or growth of self.
I think the answer, and we say all throughout our alignment guide, is the empowerment and nurturing of self, checking
Mhm.
in with ourselves to make sure that our mindset is healthy and our bodies, our environment's reflecting good. But I think also it's just, it's not, I think a lot of our conversations when we're talking about these shifts are, people may be thinking, oh, this has to do entirely with government or climate change, but it's so much. I mean, there's so many shifts and revolutions.
Anything. Yeah, anything.
So whether that's on a micro level, and I know there's so many of my friends that are receiving severances from a place that they've been loyal to for, a quarter of a century.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's significant. So to your point, you know, you can acknowledge, we should all acknowledge, okay, the pain, but not to the extent that it causes blinders to opportunities. So it's really taking that empowerment and accountability. And we have said numerous times before throughout the years, we're responsible for saving ourselves. No one's going to come
Yeah.
save us necessarily. So
Yes.
being, as you're saying, personally responsible and um, believing there to be a more expansive revolution for yourself is the answer.
Mhm.
Um, Out of most any situation, we even talked about between us, also on a micro level with relationships and having to deal with difficult relationships, and you can um, and many of us have gotten into a place where we've gotten stuck or not seeing the way out of a poor relationship cycle. And so I think a lot of these themes of what we're learning on a macro level can be boiled down. It all comes down to what we choose to do for ourselves, and not blaming of everybody else.
And that's the thing too. It is just so easy if you're in that negativity cycle to then jump to the blaming. That's the next logical step. And then what have you done but literally become part of the problem?
Mhm.
Even if you are absolutely correct,
Mhm.
right? Uh it 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 just produces no progress and probably the opposite. At a certain point, you'll regress, right? If the focus is just on everything else and um, whose fault it is and who's a piece of shit, and it's just not productive, even if you're right. it's not productive for anyone,
Yeah.
even if you're right. And I think that was a good analogy with the like romantic relationship, because I think we can all, and you and I talked about this before. The reason why I can speak so passionately about this is because I fully have been the person in the negativity cycle, in the complaining cycle, in the blaming cycle. I have fully been there, completely giving my power to an outside entity rather than focusing on what are the things that I can control, who can I serve, let me go do that instead. um I've fully been there, and I think a lot of people, a lot of us have been there, especially when you think of, past romantic relationships, and how maybe, okay, somebody hurt you, somebody cheated on you, maybe somebody cheated on you a lot and they were lying, and they kind of um made multiple lives, or whatever the case may be. Well, then you start finding out about these things, and you're years down the line with this person, and so there's a lot of reasons to try to rationalize or justify staying where you are. But there's resentment building up, and it just turns into this circular, like, oh, this person sucks, they're a piece of shit, look how bad they treat me, and blah 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 blah. But then time passes by, and at a certain point, you have, if you want to break that cycle, you have to acknowledge, and this is hard to do, but it's a part of the human experience, in my opinion, because we all have done this in some aspect. But at some point, you have to acknowledge that you are now choosing your suffering, even when it's coming. You can say it's coming or inflicted by an outside person or entity. At a certain point, you are choosing it.
Yeah. It's true.
Because and there could be a lot of reasons for that. What is on the other side is uncertainty, and that's scary, and it is scary, and it is hard, and it is hard to admit or acknowledge when you are um giving someone else or something else power over you, and when you are essentially choosing your own suffering. That's a really hard place to be, but there's so much peace and freedom and liberation on the other side of it. And it doesn't mean, and so you could use that kind of analogy of like, maybe there's a part of you that like, say this person who's hurt you, also has some things about their life, some trauma that happened to them, where you can understand why they are the way they are, and you had some good times with the person, and there's love there, and you don't want to be a person who abandons someone, or whatever kind of different stories you're telling yourself. um
Oh,
Siri
Siri
says
wants
help.
to help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Siri. See, she's Siri's undergoing
cares.
a personal revolution too. She gets it.
Yeah.
I think I started tangenting a bit there, but yeah, to bring it
Yeah.
back to,
I mean, to take it back to what it is
personal responsibility, which can be hard to admit, hard to come to that place. But at the end of the day, it's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing to put the power back in your own hands.
what I heard you say more is to trust your inner knowing, essentially. If you desire to experience revolution in a positive way, in an expansive way, then you have to really trust yourself. I also heard you, and I think what you said was relevant, because it's one thing, things start to unravel when you lose respect for people around you, but it's another thing when you start to lose respect for yourself. And then those things together are just a recipe for a disaster. And then I'm sure that shows up in your, not only your mindset and your body, you probably are having health signs of stress, that piece falling apart, and you're probably living in disarray in an unhealthy way. And that affects how you respond to every little thing that's happening in your life. So it's that losing or gaining trust in yourself in uncertain times.
Yeah, yes. And also having whether it's a some type of faith, right?
Mhm.
Whether whatever level of spirituality or religion you might associate that with, like if you're a person who has faith or has a belief that everything is happening for the greatest good,
Uh,
then that requires a lot of blind trust in uncomfortable times, painful times, and uncertain times.
I mean, even just trust in historical patterns in human existence at all.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
not, nature and the cycles of how things happen. There's never going to be, well, I don't, there's always going to be cycles. It's not
Mhm.
always going to be the same. So even aside from which form of spirituality or God that you pray to, it's if without all of that included, even if you're purely scientific and agnostic, and you recognize the historical and the cyclical patterns of all things are constantly changing. But it's that when you feel there's uh, no trust in total disarray of everything, when you internalize and you interpret change as the world is crumbling all around me, that's not serving you very well. So how can we talk more and shift about action and taking aligned action for individuals on a personal level?
I think, yeah, I actually was just going to say something like that, because I think a good way to go with this is like how I teach people with food,
Mhm.
because you don't want to create a restrictive mindset.
Yeah.
You will, as a person, as a human, ultimately be driven to rebel against restrictions. So I think it's about seeking out the good in the world, essentially seeking out the oxytocin, seeking out experiences with people you love and you care about, seeking out uh, beautiful weather, seeking out things that bring you joy, relaxation, laughter, and peace.
Hmm. Yeah, all the things that nourish. Um,
Yes. And
right.
you can get into the whole, by doing that, right? That personal revolution, seeking out joy, taking care of yourself, your own mental and physical health, you are then way better equipped to share that with others around you and actually create positive outcomes in the world, rather than just wallow in the negative ones that you
Mhm.
see. And does it make all negativity in the world go away? No. Probably not likely to happen as long as we are human beings roaming this earth, right? There will be negativity, but how do you counter that besides creating positivity? You
Right.
have to create that. You don't get to just live in this utopian Disney world all the time. You got
Right.
to create those experiences. So
Right.
seeking it out, and I'm sure there's elements of the whole conversation around self-care and self-love and doing things for yourself and getting over these ideas that that's selfish or it means you don't care about other. And like, no, we got to make this the year that we just squash that idea, that we squash the idea that taking care of yourself is selfish or bad. Taking care of yourself should be the number one priority. You should be your number one priority because that is how you excel at making the world a better place in whatever your gift and purpose is.
I think too, as we talk about conscious collaboration, I think that who we surround ourselves with, not that we want to ever exist in an echo chamber, but I think it's to be intentional. Maybe it's not the same group all the time. Maybe you do have groups that have a little bit of conflict, but then you also have the groups that you play with and you create with, and that you can exist in that more
Yeah.
higher vibration.
I think I've I guess sort of subconsciously, and now it's coming to my consciousness, kind of gotten away from the phrase like-minded individuals. And I think that that's actually super healthy and important to yes, good people, right? You want to surround yourself with good people, but not limiting this perception of a good person to a person who thinks exactly like you think.
Right.
That makes your world very small. And if you go into an interaction with the intention of wanting to understand someone, even if they are someone who completely different background, votes differently than you, different, just different life views, all the above. What I'm seeing from a lot of people is that, on any side, they just go into the interaction with their idea of who the other person is already. It's already set in stone. They already think they know why the other person is the way they are. And so it just becomes two people sort of yelling at each other or talking at each other or arguing at each other rather than this discourse of, and even if you don't ever agree or really truly understand or wrap your head around why the other person thinks the way that they do, if you approach it with the intention of trying to understand it, I mean, you really can grow as like that's some personal revolution right there. You can really grow as a person in some of those interactions, and you could open up collaboration opportunities that you might never even know existed because you've taken these sort of arbitrary limits off that you've placed there, not even the other person has placed there. That doesn't mean that you think everything they think or do is right. But
Yeah, I think
also
that's
doesn't mean that two people who don't think alike at all can't come together and collaborate and make really, really great outcomes.
I think that's the whole conscious piece of it. I think you can be very limited in your viewpoint of like-minded, or you can think of it more in terms of how I don't think of like-minded in terms of someone being cookie cutter to me, but I have different groups of collaborators. I have business, I have personal, I have different types of business, spiritual and business and geeky and techie stuff, totally different, separate groups of collaborators. And we're like-minded in the sense that we all come from different backgrounds all around the world, perhaps many times, and some of them local. But it's more of the common thread. And it has nothing to do with anything else other than the thread that we're coming together with to learn and to create and to grow, to challenge. And it's also encouraged to have, and I think what's value about the professional groups that I collaborate inside of, there's some sort the good ones, because there's some that are, a little iffy. I think the good ones are the ones that do a lot of vetting and to make sure that it's a good fit from both sides. Personal accountability. Do you fit inside the group? And, taking that accountability for yourself. I think that I've seen people really dislike collaboration. And I talked about this a lot with a group inside of the International Feng Shui Guild yesterday. There can be dissatisfaction and when you're inside of a group and there's a big gap between one person or several people within the rest, and feeling like, oh, I'm not getting any value out of this group. But it's showing up with what value am I bringing versus what am I getting out of the group. And it's not always going to be the same week to week or month to month or whatever the cadence is. But it's, and I think you talked about it in our pre-chat ahead of time. It's being more of how and you said in the earlier setting this up, is how am I serving the group? What value am I bringing, and how can I contribute to this discussion? I think that's really that type of creative energy in a collective way. We talk a lot about we've come up with this in our I Ching readings a lot, is the energy of extended family is really important too. So I think that also reinforces collaboration. But we want to spend time in meditation and with our highest self and hearing our own inner voice, but also being able to create community. And if these are revolutionary times, then being able to radiate who you are outside of all the noise is how you're going to create the new framework for communities and societies and ways of living, and in business too. I do hear a lot, even the people that are getting severanced out of corporations. The corporations are talking about conscious business, which is exciting because they're using words that we've been using a lot of times as solopreneurs, and that's trickled up. But I'm not sure that all businesses on that level truly understand conscious business to the same degree, but it's a positive sign that the small can have an impact on the bigger. And that's empowering.
Yeah, I challenge. Should you approach it with the right attitude and intention, challenge is empowering.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity to grow, to learn. Yes, it can be painful and uncomfortable, but our life without challenge would just be like limp and boring. I don't want to live in a world where everybody thinks exactly the same. I want, and this is newer for me in the last few years, for sure, but I want my ideas to be challenged.
Right. Yeah.
Even if I don't in that moment. Like I see overall a great value in you can talk about, like, I hear the terms like straw man and steel man. Like, so context being like, trying to steel man an argument or opinion
Mhm.
that I don't, that is not mine, that is opposite of mine, in order to, gain a new perspective on my own, or maybe feel even more, more so about my own. But I think that's so important, and just, I mean, the key to a dynamic life and universe, to have differing opinions and viewpoints. But we got to do better about receiving and tolerating and utilizing that and channeling that and turning it into discourse instead of just chaos and people talking at each other and yelling at each other and calling each other stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's anti-collaboration.
Yeah, that's the anti-collaboration. Well, I mean, that's just diverting anyone's attention away
And
from.
anti-revolution, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's really just nothing. It's noise.
Yeah, you can't see
It's no, and it's disempowering. It's the most disempowering thing you could do, is just participate in squabbling.
Mhm. I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's have our daily personal revolutions, that really lead us through these difficult times to being amazingly better people. And then if we look around and others have joined us in their own personal revolutions, then we'll have some really great collaboration opportunities that come from it as well.
Yeah. I mean, we're seeing it. I see a lot of really great positive changes, and, from all the generations. I know there's a lot of intergenerational squabbling, but working in the field that I do in terms of building and designing, I'm seeing really cool collaborative living spaces that I see changing the
Mhm.
way that communities are set up. And I imagine that affecting businesses as well, to serve communities in a different way, taking away things that might have been monetized before may change as well too. Our food may be, more on the onus of us to grow and cultivate our own food and have that responsibility from seed to our plate.
I mean,
So that could look
that's
very,
a
very
great
different.
example. That's a great example. Okay. Like, we can look at the government and, or, organizations and entities who manage food in the
Mhm.
country. And there's a lot of problems to be had there. And, whether you agree with who's in charge of taking on those problems or
Mhm.
how they're going to do it, what we can take advantage of about this energy of revolution and the age of Aquarius and collaboration is that, okay, I don't like what's going on up there, but hey, there's this whole, like, other avenues for
Mhm.
us to collaborate. Collaboration breeds innovation. There is opportunity, and the energy is ripe for collaboration, innovation, coming up with whole new ways of doing things that
Mhm.
put the power back in our own hands. Growing our own food
Yeah, I
being a
mean,
great example of that. And,
building our own
figuring out ways as
everything.
communities to make that possible,
Mhm.
so we don't have to worry about red dye 40, or
Right, exactly.
um so, but to do that, you
Yeah.
gotta get your head out of the out of the negative snowball.
Well, yeah, look for the positive things like that and get involved on little levels. And, I say that because the whole seed to plate thing came to my mind because I'm looking at this cute little grow kit that I got for the kids. We went to Daystar Community Center.
What is the plant?
So this is red clover, and you can eat this red clover. It's organic.
Like herb?
It's a microgreen.
Microgreen.
Yeah. And my kids are growing their own microgreens, and they're composting, and they're at an age where they want to grow and make and eat their own food. So what I think is
Will you tell them to start a watermelon patch for me?
Yeah, watermelons are kind of tricky here.
That's what I want.
Yeah, they're a little bit, we only have one garden bed, raised garden bed at the moment, but I think you'll notice, and everybody listening may notice, there's tons of raised garden beds everywhere, even in cities on rooftops, and there's even
you can do the wall, like the pocket gardens.
You could do that in your kitchen. So I do see, the benefit in looking for those revolutionary changes and getting involved versus getting swept up into, okay, what's next for me? I lost this job because the system crumbled and that doesn't exist anymore. But I'm sure there's something that in an industrious way that you can apply what you learned to something different. I don't know.
100%. Yeah, of course.
That's the existence of every entrepreneur that I know, and we've had so many in this podcast experience. But so hang out with us, I think, essentially. I think is a good place to start. And it keeps coming up, so we're not going to ignore it, that things are changing. But we hope, and I think it's just a good check-in for me and you too, to return to that place of alignment and mind our own business, mind our own energy.
What you said reminded me of something I thought was really brilliant from the movie. There's the 4 women who worked for NASA. Hidden Figures. Hidden Figures.
See that? Yeah, I heard that was good.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Hidden Figures. Well, what I'm getting at is she was their supervisor, their leader. What she imparted upon these women was just keep yourself, like, always learn, always be learning, and always seek out skills that will make you useful. Make yourself useful. Make yourself indispensable. Like, not just to a particular company or industry, but always, whether you're, quote unquote, secure in a job or not, always be learning new things and, keeping skills that keep you useful.
I like that reference. I do want to watch that movie. But yeah, I do want to remind everybody, if you're being severenced right now, just because your job no longer exists and that function no longer exists doesn't mean that you're not useful in any way, because if you take that time and reflect, like we're talking about, there is something greater there, and you're probably being held back by not being able to be used to your fullest extent anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And let's remember our identities and our purpose are not our job. Mm-hmm. Or I should say that the other way around. Our jobs are not our identity.
Right. Exactly.
Our purpose can be executed outside of any corporate entity.
Yeah. At any time.
Yep.
So, I like it. So that was really good. And that's good advice that Chibi gave. And I want to tell you that, she did look at, listen to our previous episodes and conversations with our guests. And so that's where a lot of these trends are, and it's a good helpful reminder. It's a good tool to know like what are the common threads in our conversation. But we had been talking about this, really, even though there's a lot of change happening right now, we're just at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
So it's really quite the calm before the revolution. We're just seeing the things on the extraneous side of it. So
don't freak out, y'all. Don't freak out. Be calm.
Be calm so you can be aware and look for the fun things and the joy and opportunities versus getting stuck in all the muck of it.
Yep.
And
seek out joy.
And I want to welcome I don't know if you saw, but we just welcomed a whole bunch of new people inside of our close and private Facebook group.
Yay! That's joyful.
So welcome to everybody there. I hope that they're enjoying downloading our free guide that I'm not very good. I don't like to make lists or journal or anything like that, but I do read through as a reminder a lot of the things that went into that. I think it's just a part of the way that we live. So
documenting the personal revolution.
Yes. So we can reflect back on it year by year, but I encourage people to share your experience with that. And it's the Conscious Collaboration Collective. You can find us there in Facebook, and we'll probably let you in, but there's a little vetting process to make sure you're not a bot. I like bots. No harm, no foul if you're a bot, but you can't come in.
Unless you're Choopy.
Unless you're Choopy. And Choopy, right? So I just shared with you haven't seen it yet because we've been talking, but on Instagram, I shared with you a reminder of what Ewoks look like. And there was an Ewok on the Today Show. Yeah, so like Choopy, I think in the movie. And I was actually a fan of Ewoks, by the way.
I used to have a little stuffed Ewok that lit up. It had one of those old, the old school batteries in it.
Oh, really? Mine was just like a stuffed animal, but
it would light up and go.
In the movie, she was the wise one with like the pink scarf on her head. So that's why I personified our AI bot that knows so much about us is that wise Ewok, female Ewok. Anyway, TMI. Thanks for listening to us. Thanks for subscribing and sharing with your friends and leaving us your testimonial. And we'll talk to you in 5.
Talk to you in 5.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank y'all so much for listening to our podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends so they can join our circle of collaboration on this journey. You can find us on Instagram at Conscious Collaboration Podcast, on Spotify, iTunes, and Audible, to name a few. Please join us next time for another deep dive into how you can live life in more alignment, mind, body, and business. Send us your questions and comments in our DMs or email us at consciouscollaborationpodcast@gmail.com. See you in 5 minutes.